Sensitivity alert! I want to be sensitive to any topic regarding borderline personality disorder, aka BPD. I love studying and learning about people with borderline personality disorder. It's one of my favorite things to study. I feel like I understand it backwards and forwards. Not everything. There's a lot that I will never understand. I don't know how it feels. It's sort of like when somebody, let's say somebody wants to identify with somebody of a different race, or you don't understand somebody's culture because you're not that culture. So we can take some things for granted. We can misunderstand each other in that way. And there are things that I will never know about being Hispanic or Asian. I will never know that. But the thing I can try my best to do is be respectful of the culture. The difference between culture, though, and a personality disorder is it's still different, okay? Because when you have a personality disorder, it impacts the person, but it also impacts the people who they are connected with. And a lot of damage can be done. So, yes, I'm saying sensitivity alert, but at the same time, if you are a borderline and you are here and you're listening to this channel, my assumption is that you want help and that you want to get better, which I applaud because it's a difficult journey and you have to be brave and you have to be courageous and you have to work really, really hard to get better. So, by the same token, I think it's important for me to also tell some truths. And it's not to be hurtful, but it's so that we can actually get somewhere. Because as long as we're pretending, how are we going to get anywhere? So the topic that we're going to talk about today is romantic connection with everyone. And that's what differentiates a borderline. One thing that differentiates someone with BPD versus someone who does not have it is when you don't have BPD, you understand the differences. So think about the roles that you play in your life. So most of us, if you're a mother, you're a sister, you're a daughter, you're a brother, you're a husband, you're a minister, you're a teacher, you are a neighbor. You are one way with your coworkers, you are one way with your mother, with your children, with your in-laws, with your neighbors, with people at the store. We play different roles. And to a certain extent, most of us, for the most part, understand those different roles. Even though we may never talk about it, it's a very subconscious thing. We just get it intrinsically that this is how I act with this person versus that person. What I have seen with many borderlines, and not all, is they're not differentiating those roles. It's like if I feel anything with you, I'm going to treat you like we are in a romantic relationship. That's kind of how they can start to treat a coworker. That's how they can start to treat a neighbor, a friend. The only difference is you may not romantically kiss your coworker, but you're doing everything else. Like, I know somebody right now in a situation with a coworker where the coworker has the key to her office and the key to her own office and has gone in and dug through this person's personal female items. I mean, just taking liberty to do that. That is inappropriate. And I am by no means saying that all borderlines, this is not an all thing. There are some borderlines who understand what's appropriate and what isn't, and they would never do something like that. But I have to give you an example for the sake of making the point for those people who do not differentiate the difference. And this coworker from day one was like, I want us to be closer than coworkers. But it's like, but I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. I'm learning you. I'm brand new to the organization. We haven't gotten to that point yet. So allowing the relationship to grow over time and in time is also important. To just say, I just met you yesterday and now we're going to be the best of friends. I mean, not to say that that can't happen. I have definitely hit it off instantly with people who have become really close friends to me. So I think there can be some truth in connecting with somebody very quickly and you truly become like the best of friends. So that can happen, but you have to remember, like in a coworker situation, more than likely there are some boundaries. There is some professionalism. There is respecting of space. And sometimes people with BPD do not understand that, and they don't understand when it can become offensive. Like this is too close. Like you're sitting in my lap. You're not giving me any space. I do not want to be around you for the entire time we are at work. I would like some space to get my work done. We're not in a romantic relationship. We're not sitting beside each other, touching legs while we're working. That's not how this thing goes. And forgive me if that sounded a little flip. I can be a little feisty at times, but this video is also for people who are confused because they have somebody with BPD in their life and they are feeling this feeling like this person is making me feel a little icky because it's too much closeness in a situation that doesn't warrant it, too much closeness in a situation. It's making me feel very uncomfortable. This feels a little weird. This feels off-putting. This person is expecting too much from me. They want me to save them. They are also acting out with me because they want to be close to me, and they're using tactics and manipulating so that we can be together all the time. And they're having these reactions with me like maybe I would with a romantic partner. It is super confusing for somebody who doesn't have borderline personality disorder. They don't have the coping mechanisms or the skills to deal with this. They don't get it. They don't understand. They may try to give you what you want, but they know that they feel very uncomfortable. But that is something that borderlines can do. It's like everybody is their romantic relationship because they're trying to heal from the damage that was more than likely done in their childhood. And in order to not have BPD, you need to have stability, a type of stability and consistency and bonding that if you miss that, it's going to potentially create problems for you in your life if you don't bond. It's sort of like ducks or birds, and not to equate it to that, but there are some similarities in humans and animals with the caring of their babies and feeding them and nurturing them and carrying them and teaching them what their song is. If they don't have that bird that's teaching them what that song is or how to chirp within a certain amount of time or period of their life, they'll never get it, and they won't be able to communicate with the other birds in a way that is necessary for group survival or to communicate. So that's the problem, is they didn't get what they needed at a very early age, and they might have also been genetically predisposed to have the disorder. So it without the right parenting, you could get that. I mean, personally, I think there's a great possibility that I could have had the genetics for that, but I had enough good parenting and solid parenting that thank goodness that did not happen to me. I think I'm codependent and I have some other things, but I don't have that. And I can't imagine how difficult that is. But at the same time, it's not fair for the people who don't have it to have to deal with the toxicity that or the because it can become abusive for the people who are involuntarily involved with a borderline, like when you are in the workplace and you want to have a cordial relationship, you want to have a respectful relationship, but you're not there for this romantic partner. And I don't want to say anything more offensive, but it's like, okay, this is not my type romantically at all, but you're making me feel feelings that I don't want to feel. So, yeah, so that's the difference between somebody who has one difference between somebody who has BPD and someone who doesn't is they can romanticize people in different roles, like the neighbor. They can treat them more like a romantic partner with romantic expectations of the closeness and what you're supposed to be doing for me when it is actually inappropriate. So you have to respect people's boundaries and their wishes and figure out how you're going to meet that need in other ways. One way to do that might be to get a pet. And I'm not joking. I think there can be deep healing with an animal. Of course, you don't want to abuse an animal, and not to say that BPDs would abuse an animal. I'm not saying that at all, but they have a different capacity than a human being does. And so they could bring great comfort. In a romantic relationship, it is natural and normal to want to connect with a person, to hug them, to kiss them, to want to be close, to bond with them, to be intimate, to fall asleep on the phone with your love interest, to sit beside them, you have the urge to be with them all the time because you could potentially build a family with this person. And in order to have a healthy family, you need to be able to bond with that child so that we don't create BPD for somebody to have to suffer with, right? So that bonding process is important. It's natural, it's normal, it's healthy. But it's not healthy to do that. Like you can have close friendships, but you can't start demanding that you're not spending enough time with me. I need you to talk to me 10 times a day. A catchphrase of borderlines: where were you? Why didn't you answer? So this is your assignment. I want you to think of different roles that you play, and I want you to do some research on them. I want you to define them. I want you to look up friendships, parental relationships. And I'm not saying that you have the best relationships, but it might help you to study that as well. What does a healthy friendship look like? What does a healthy friendship with what does a healthy coworker relationship look like? With a neighbor, with somebody that I meet at the store. That is your homework. I want you to do some research because you will be held accountable. Even though it's painful, you will be held accountable. But really the goal is to free you. The goal is to free you so that you don't have to feel bad all the time, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants you to suffer. Nobody wants you to be upset all the time. But at the same time, that is not another person's responsibility to save you in the way that you want to be saved. Borderline personality disorder, BPD, can manifest in various ways, particularly in interpersonal relationships. Individuals with BPD often have intense and unstable relationships, which can lead them to treat friends, coworkers, and acquaintances with the same level of emotional investment typically reserved for romantic partners. One characteristic of BPD is a profound fear of abandonment. This fear can drive individuals to seek constant reassurance and validation from those around them. As a result, they may call or check in excessively, striving to maintain a sense of closeness and connection. While most people may reserve such behaviors for intimate relationships, individuals with BPD might extend this to all their interactions, creating an overwhelming need for contact and affirmation. For coworkers and acquaintances, this can manifest as frequent phone calls, texts, or social media messages. They might seek to share every thought or feeling, expecting that the other person will respond with the same level of emotional investment. This behavior can sometimes be perceived as intrusive or overwhelming by others who may not be prepared for such intensity in a non-romantic context. Additionally, individuals with BPD often struggle with feelings of emptiness and emotional dysregulation, which can exacerbate their need for connection. When they feel a lack of emotional support or attention, they may become anxious, believing that the other person is pulling away or is not as invested in the relationship as they are. This can lead to a cycle of overcommunication where they react or they reach out more frequently in an attempt to alleviate their feelings of insecurity. While their intentions may stem from a desire for closeness and affirmation, the intensity of these behaviors can lead to misunderstandings and strained relationships. Friends and coworkers may feel pressured or overwhelmed as they may not be equipped to provide the same level of emotional engagement that the person with BPD seeks. In summary, individuals with BPD often approach relationships with the same fervor and need for reassurance typically associated with romantic partnerships. This can create a unique dynamic in their interactions with friends, coworkers, and acquaintances, leading to behaviors that may be perceived as excessive or overwhelming by those around them. Understanding these patterns can foster compassion and patience in navigating relationships with individuals who have BPD. And sometimes BPDs can link up with narcissists, so we want to be aware of that. So you want to check out my book called The Workplace Narcissist, which is going to tell you about a very popular brand of narcissists that we may all encounter. And if you want your love life to be better, check out my book, The Flip the Script on Love. And if you love studying Myers-Briggs personality types, I wrote a book called From ENFJ with Love, there by Tamara Zyon, and I'll put the link in the description box. Thank you everyone for hanging with me today. I enjoyed it so much, and I will see you on the next video. Bye, and be sure to like and subscribe so that we can keep up with each other. Bye.